Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Bailey, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Black,
Here.
Commissioner Batty,
Here.
Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Keen, Commissioner Langness,
Present.
and Commissioner Gerard.
Here. We ask if you're able to please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. I want to point out that if you're here for the conditional use permit application for 21395 Goodview, number 8 on the list, that was withdrawn at the city's request, so there will be no conversation regarding that application this evening. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from October 10th, 2018.
So moved.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We have a number of public hearings tonight, and so all of the applications will be done the same way. We'll start with the presentation by the city as they know the application as it is. The Planning Commission members will then ask the city any questions, clarifications that they need. We will then ask the applicants if they would like to say a few words. After that, we will have the public hearing. I'll explain how that works in a little bit, and then after the public hearing, it'll come back here for a decision. So first application, which is a public hearing, is an application for 21183 Everton Avenue. It's a public hearing to consider the application. Donovan, I assume you're presenting?
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the variance application for 21183 Everton Avenue. Shown here on your screen is the property. It's on the south shore of Clear Lake on Everton, which is a private road, privately maintained. And it's about a quarter-acre lot. Judith Barthold is the owner, who's here to represent the application with her son Stephen. Here it's 21183. What they seek to do is to build a detached garage on the property. Currently, there's a cabin there, about 1,100 square foot, single-story cabin. And before you is the current conditions, which shows 3 accessory structures in addition to that cabin. The canvas and pole structure has been subject of a city zoning code compliance issue for a number of years. And right now the city is seeking to kind of resolve that. Supposedly the materials to build the garage are contained within this canvas and pole structure. And then in addition, there's 2 wooden sheds which on this 94 survey are separate, but sometime since then they've been combined into one wooden shed with about 160 square feet. So what are the proposed conditions is to remove the tin shed in the canvas and pole structure, and the variance request is to place the proposed garage 10 feet at the minimum, at the smallest dimension on that southwest corner from the lot line. This allows a little bit of more room on that right side of the road. However, you can see, and I've been out there to measure on the site, that approximately is about 5 feet difference between the actual lot line and the road edge. So there is, there is some room to park a vehicle there, either parallel or also going perpendicular. Not a lot. In this case, it's not an ideal situation. One thing that is complicating this, and I had some conversations with the applicant, is the tree shown in your screen here on the right, it's a large maple, about 2.5 feet in diameter, would have to be removed if the shed was placed further back. I'm sorry, the garage, or else if it was a side-loaded garage. Right now, they've proposed it to be front-loaded. So that was part of our conversation. Also, I've worked with the applicant to reduce the size of the garage and keep a conforming side setback for its proposed location. Also showing, here's other photos. Here's on the right here, the canvas and pole structure. Here's about the 160 square foot shed there. There's a small tin shed in the rear there toward the shoreline. There's another photo showing the house in its current condition. So what the impervious surface is approximately 19% for the property. And so that's not an issue. There's only one access allowed, so, for a residential property of this size. And so that it would simply be that driveway for the garage. We did receive some letters and phone calls regarding this variance application. The 3 letters, copies of which are before you, are in opposition to it. The reasons given relate to concern about diminishing property values, that the proposed garage is too close to the road aesthetically. It would be the only property with the garage setting that far out. Within the immediate lots nearby, there's no garage similar to close to the road. Some other parts of Everton, of this section of Everton, there are some garages that are close, but not in the immediate area. There is some concern that if the road was ever expanded, it was built to city standards, this garage would either be encroaching upon that, or else potentially unusable, or else just really back right out into the road. So that's a concern that's mentioned. Some concerns about personal safety with one of the occupants of the house. And I'd like to remind the Plan Commission that there are many, there are criteria in which the Plan Commission considers when issuing a variance. And the criteria that the Plan Commission is given authority to in granting variances relate to whether it's the plight of the situation is due to homeowner action, or is it due to something outside the landowner's control. Also, whether there's increases in congestion on public streets, increased danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood, or cause drainage on an adjacent property, among others. Some other reasons. So basically, the staff recommendation is for approval with conditions. These conditions include that a demolition permit must be obtained to remove the tin shed and the canvas and pole structure, and reduce the existing wooden shed to below 120 square feet. So there's not two accessory structures above 120 square feet on the lot. And with the demo permit, there's an escrow that's submitted to the city, so that ensures that the demolition does occur. That the proposed accessory structure meets the dimension requirements of the single-family zoning district. That the existing driveway is removed after construction, so that only one residential access is maintained. And that no erosion or drainage issues shall result from the construction of the home. At this point, I'm happy to take any questions from the Plan Commission.
Anyone have any questions for Donovan? Dennis?
Donovan, If, I know it's not much, but if it was on if the garage was located on the other side of the property, there'd be a little bit longer access drive there. I mean, are they wanting to save some of those other smaller accessory structures? Is that why they're wanting to locate it in this location here? Or
Well,
was there discussion about that?
the narrative reports that the sewer line runs on the east side. And I've actually worked with Judith here a bit on this application, trying to make things work, because it's a property that has had the city's attention for a number of years. I actually did something of a, kind of a rough sketch. I'm sorry, that's one sketch,
There you go.
the side loaded, but
Yeah,
there's
right
another one for, where I basically did that and it showed, a minimum of 13 feet. So you gain a little bit, and what this would also require taking out that maple that the applicant seeks to save.
Oh, okay. So that,
And that's
the
notwithstanding
trees don't show up on the
sewer
survey,
issue.
so there was no way to know.
No.
Are you saying that sanitary sewer would go, the service goes underneath the garage then with the location as you're showing?
I believe that was considered,
Yeah, no, it's going to be going on the side. It comes out this way, yeah. No, it won't be going under the garage.
Not where the garage is, not where we want to build a garage.
but in this location, it's more on the east side of the lot. Is
Right.
that over the sewer line?
Right, with the way you got that drawn, yes.
Yeah, that'd be part of it, besides the fact that eventually we want to add on to that side of the house too, so that's another reason. Because that's where,
Okay.
Donovan, you had another sketch that showed the driveway.
So
yeah, there you
also,
go, side loading.
I considered this one, and this is, again, something I often do with applicants, how can we get to yes? How can we get something that the planning commission would approve, and something that, but this is not, what the applicant has proposed. But this does allow that, for it to be conforming with the off-street unenclosed parking. With the code requires 2 spaces. So we have 2 enclosed and 2, unenclosed spaces with this scheme. And still, the impervious surface is not, excessive.
Other
But
questions?
that takes out, your L-shaped scheme takes out that tree.
Correct.
Donovan, in your report, you talk about the sidewalls of the garage are over 10 feet. Is that, so, and I believe then in the loft is probably above 7 feet for the storage area there?
It appears to be so.
I'm just on-
That's really something that would be ironed out in the building permit review process. And so this, I mentioned that here just to, to not give the false impression that this represents some sort of consent to these sidewalls in excess of 10 feet, and then looks like a bonus room that potentially is, greater than 7 feet clearance.
Is that number 4 of your recommendations, does that cover that?
Yes.
Because I want to make sure that's clear. So,
Cover what?
that the sidewalls need to be under 10 and loft have to be 7 or less.
That they are, it looks like they are showing an attic truss there.
Which is okay, but the top of that truss can only be 7 feet.
Okay.
It can't be 8, so that, which would allow a living quarter,
Okay.
you know. So number 4 in the recommendations is what Donovan has covering that.
Okay.
It's something more for clarity. I mean, it's the city would not issue a permit that would be, non-compliant in that regard.
Correct. Eric?
Hey, Donovan, am I correct that we have a policy that you can't put a shed between your house and the street?
There actually on lakeshore lots, there's an exception where you can put your accessory structure between the house and the street. However, it does need to meet the 30-foot setback, for a new structure. But this one, showing from the 94 survey, it's legal nonconforming in its current location.
But if they reduce the shed, would it then be conforming to all of the standards today?
No, because it would still be, it'd still be in the, it would still would not meet setbacks either side and front. However, by consenting to, by issuing the variance, the city would not be putting the property into a greater nonconformity with the two structures over 120 square feet in size.
Could we, as part of the variance, should we assume we want to move forward with allowing it, eliminate that shed?
I believe that's within the Plan Commission's authority.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, Donovan, this roadway is a private roadway,
Correct.
and so the maintenance of that is not by the city, it's by private contractor.
Right, the roadway itself, there is a sanitary sewer easement the city has.
Right.
The popular survey.
We don't plow snow or we don't take care of the road.
Correct. And there is, there's only about 5, 6 properties, beyond this property, so we're getting toward the end of the road as well.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Did you, I just don't like how close to the road this is. I'm just wondering, what about making the garage an attached garage? Looks like you could move it back 10 feet and get a 20, get enough room in front of it there to
Yeah,
be able to go directly.
yeah, still, if you look at the current house setbacks, to get, you could reduce the amount of encroachment within the setback, but not eliminate a variance. In my,
Yeah, but it would.
unless there was a complete redevelopment, of the lot, I don't believe you could fit a garage within that, with the existing house footprint.
No, I'm not suggesting changing the footprint of the house. I'm just talking about pushing the garage back so that it was an attached garage to the house. Just pushing it straight,
Yeah.
essentially straight back, parallel to the line of the house there. That's just a thought.
Yeah, there's,
It's not-
there's
the
ability,
thing that- We just dealt with another one. It was, had the same situation where we were creating a space where there wasn't enough room to park in front of the garage. I just don't like that.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, would the applicant like to speak to their application? If so, we ask you to please come up to the lectern and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Stephen Barthold, 21183 Everton Avenue North, Forest Lake, Minnesota, 55025.
What would you like to say, sir?
I just, as far as like the attached garage go, for one, we can't afford it to attach the garage there. I'm as far away from the house I'm as close to the house as I can be, because you have to be so many feet from the house to build a detached garage. To put it to the side, we're cutting down a bunch of trees as it is up front up there, and to take down that red maple, that's another expense, and it's the only tree that's going to be left in the yard. I've made sure that it's under the pervious. As far as parking goes in the driveway, there's 10 feet and there's like 5 feet to the road. It's a private road, but there wouldn't be no parking there anyways. I'd be parking a car inside the garage. I'm disabled, it's just me living there, but my son comes up, I need storage, that's why the upstairs is for storage trusses. For storage, we got 3 storage sheds now full of stuff because it's only a 1,200 square foot home, one story. Everything's feasible. I've cut down, I've had conversations with Donovan because I wanted to come down the side a little bit. I cut that back it's a 24 by 26 garage. It's your average garage. It's not oversized. I'm not asking for some big extreme thing to build some big garage there. It's just 24 by 26. The shed that's there was there. We sided it and, I put a roof on it so it looked better. you know, I need that for lawnmowers, you know, yard stuff for the lake and all that other stuff, you know what I mean? It's just, it's not, I'm not asking, I believe we're not asking for something that's, you know, not unreasonable, you know? As far as, you know, like I said, the side view, I just don't foresee that it being a, you know, I mean, you're not gaining much because it's 24 by 26, so what are you gonna gain? 2 feet is what you would gain if you flip the garage the other way, you know? So, I mean, the neighbor was worried about view or something coming out of their garage, they got a three-car stall garage, a huge house, you know? I mean, they took up all their whole property with it. I mean, I'm not asking for nothing, you know, that I don't think that's reasonable, you know? I mean, if there's any questions you want to ask me about anything, I mean.
Commissioners, any questions? Mike?
Yes, sir.
How many vehicles do you own?
Do I own?
Yeah.
One. I don't even own a vehicle right now, but one, yeah. Yeah. I got rid of it, but I will have one, yeah. And then my son comes up, my son's in college, and he comes, you know, stays there and stuff, so it'll be 2-car garage, 2 cars in there. And I do have a couple motorcycles. I don't even have been on them because I've just been disabled, so I'm lucky to be walking. I was walking with a walker here a couple of years ago.
Other questions? Eric?
So I'm looking at a letter here that the city sent you on November 4th of 2005. It was referenced in our packet, but it wasn't actually in there. Donovan, are you able to pull that up on the computer?
Yeah.
And the letter in summary says that you were to have removed the temporary Quonset carport
That was,
cover.
at that time, that
Hang on
was
one second.
okay.
Let me finish my question. And it actually gives the date of removal to be November 14th, 2005, exactly 13 years ago today. Is it just complete disregard to the city that you chose not to be in compliance for the last 13 years?
Sir, no, sir. That was addressed at the time. That tent shed got put up before the city ordinance came in, and they grandfathered that tent shed in there at the time. My mother has proof of that. And I've talked to Donovan about that. That was grandfathered in at the time. And they changed that city ordinance after that tent shed was put up there. I mean, I put it up, I don't remember how long before that. It was not ignored.
Can you show us this proof?
My mom,
We've had that house since '98, and it was November 8th of 2004. That tent shed's been up there since '98. It was November 8th of 2004 that they put the new stipulations, you know, you put it up for the winter and take it down. And then it was amended again in February 10th of 2010, you know, for some other stuff on it. But that tent shed it was the other planning commissioner, not Donovan, that we talked to back then, and it was grandfathered in. But that's why we're trying to get the garage, because we want to get rid of the tent shed.
I'm trying to make the property look nice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this house is, 75, 100 years old, and it's on the property where it's on. You know, we're stuck with where it's at, right? And, you know, and you talk about this maple tree is like huge. It would cost like $3,000 to $5,000 to take the thing down. And besides the value that a tree like that would be, and not only that, the electrical wires. I've already talked to the electric company, because the lines run alongside the road, you know, for the electrical. And they told me that they would take the trees down below the electrical, and I've already had my tree guy out there to see if he could take the rest of them down.
So I plan on running the house is, it's a house, it's not a cabin, it's a house. It's got 60 amp service in it. And what the plan is, once the garage is built, to run new service into the 100 to the garage and 100 to the house. And, you know, split the service and run 200 amp service in there. So I would be updating the electrical there too. Like I said, it's 60 amp service right now. Small wires running low, you know, all that would be taken care of too. That's part of the plan, so, with electrical.
I'd like to offer something here. I have the letter that's Commissioner Langness refers to from 2005. It specifically talks about it being the canvas and tarp structure, not the tin structure. And so that's the one that was required to be removed, and that is not grandfathered in. That was, this is a 2005 an enforcement letter, saying that this needs to be removed.
But that was the one when I talked to the guy that was, he died now, he was cancer, I think he was died before you. I can't even remember his name, it's on there. But I talked to him, and we bought the house, I bought the house in 1998,
Judith, can you go up to the dais and speak?
Here's the other thing, if they didn't okay it back then, grandfather, how come there was no other letters or anything said about it until, a year or two ago?
Yeah,
Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you think that if I was ignoring it, that from 2005, that is what, 18 or 13 years ago, you think that there would have been more letters sent and more, tickets or anything because it wasn't removed. So, I mean, it was told that it could stay there because it was there before the city ordinance was put up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would have been other arguments about it and everything else, or it would have got took down. I mean, that is what was said and what was done. I mean, it's kind of, obvious. Like I said, you'd think there would be other letters and other complaints about it if that wasn't what happened. You go ahead.
Well, yeah, he just told the story, because I got all the dates on it, and it was 2004 that they put the ordinance in. And then they amended it again in 2010 for, some other stuff. But I talked to the guy back then, and I bought the property in 98, and that was 2004, and he said, yeah, it's grandfathered in. So, we've always wanted to put the garage in there. It's just been money and his health, and I've got a certificate I gave to Donovan. He's been certified disabled by the state. So that's one reason, like I told in my letter to Donovan, that I want the garage, because I live in Coon Rapids, and I come up there and I shovel, because he can't do it,
Yeah, no.
And so I want the garage, for his vehicles, because he can't go out there. He looks healthy, but the state don't, say you're disabled if you're not. So, but that's why mainly one reason we want the garage. We want to get rid of the eyesore, and then we can start, cleaning up. But I'm retired. I've been retired for 16 years, and I kind of take care of my son because, who else does? He can't work and stuff, so.
Any other questions?
It's no secret I've been in trouble.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you and God bless you.
This is a public hearing. The way this will work this evening is, if you wish to speak to this application, we ask that you come up, state your name and address for the record, spend a couple of minutes giving us your comments on the application. After we've heard from everyone, we will close the public hearing, and it'll come back then for a decision or recommendation from the Planning Commission. So that's how all of the public hearings will work tonight. So if we'll open the public hearing, does anyone wish to speak to this issue?
Hi, my name is Ed Eigner, and I live at 21221 Everton Avenue, which is 3 houses to the south of the property in question. And my reasons for speaking tonight is in opposition. I'm not in opposition to the garage. I'm in opposition to a standalone garage in front of a property, because that's typically not what you see on our street. There's a new home next to theirs, and there's my home, and we have quite an investment in our homes. And I think this type of arrangement would detract from the property values. I certainly would like them to have a garage, and I would have no complaints if they followed Commissioner Batty's recommendation to put an attached garage, like 2 of the other homes have when you first come into the private road. And what I, in most opposition to, is I don't know of anybody that has 10-foot cars. And I was here when you wrestled with the 15-foot driveway not meeting standard. Now we're talking a 10-foot driveway. And it's a private road, so if and when that road were ever turned over to the city, it's not built to city standards. It would have to be widened. So I don't know how you'd widen when you have a 10-foot driveway there. You'd have no driveway. So that's mine. I have nothing against them having a garage, but I would like it to be more in compliance what would be typical to that type of neighborhood. So,
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this application? I'll ask one more time. Does anyone else wish to speak to this application? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back for a decision by the planning commissioner. Commission, excuse me. Commissioners?
Commissioner, or Chairman Paul, I cannot support this, the way that this thing is set up, because I don't think it needs, first of all, I don't see that an attached garage would be any more expensive than a detached garage. There'd
Can I
be some
say
say.
something? Attached
Just
garage
let me
has
finish.
that.
And we've closed the public hearing.
Let me finish. You know, there's, granted, there are some things that would have to be drawn differently in regard to this real short section of foundation that runs essentially north and south there. But other than that, I think you could nestle that up there. Is there, let me just ask a question, Donovan, is there a minimum distance required between an attached garage and a detached garage and a permanent residence?
Yes, 6 feet.
6 feet. So is that what that?
Yeah, so that's why you have those
That
corner.
point-to-point distance is 6 feet?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Right in there,
So that's how they came up with that.
correct.
So Donovan, if that garage moved towards the house, it would add 6 feet plus maybe another 5 feet if you pushed it all the way in corner to corner?
I think
Go back on that picture you had right there.
yeah, you're saying,
Yep. So if that garage went,
yeah, you would get, all other things being equal, 16 feet.
in addition to the 10 that's existing, so you'd have about 26 feet.
No, I meant, well, I think you'd have, well, it depends how it tucks in. That's approximately at least 10. The 6 there plus maybe 4.
4?
I can.
So then you'd have,
We can measure that.
about 20 feet of driveway on the short side and 25 or so on the long.
Just take a second.
That's about what.
Yeah, so it's approximately 10 feet that could be gained if they were attached.
Okay, so you would have 10 feet plus the 10 feet short distance of the driveway proposed. And if you had the garage be 1 stall instead of 2, you'd add even more distance, and you would almost be completely in compliance, correct?
75 foot short, you need 25 feet front yard setback.
You'd be close. I think you'd,
Or they make the garage 22 or 20, not 26
On
or
one side,
24.
it'd be very, very close.
so it's very possible to actually build a compliant garage on this property.
Well, it's 30-foot setback.
I'm not sure about with the 30-foot setback that you could make it. I mean, easily 20.
Yeah.
Do you know the distance of the lakeside homes, garages and structures nearby that? I drove by and I don't recall anything, even close to what they're asking. On the opposite side of the road, it's set back well over 30 feet. But on that side, I mean, this would stick out very much in comparison to the neighbors, correct?
Correct, as far as the immediate ones. I was referring to some others, further down the street, right, where the road does that, westward elbow. That are different, but, and this one's, I measured this one about 17 from the lot line. This one also, but none in the immediate area would be that close.
And so I bring that point up because I think some of the other ones that we've looked at as a commission recently, particularly I want to say on Fondant Avenue, if I remember right, it's like every single house and garage is almost on this road. Whereas this would be very uncharacteristic for this neighborhood versus it would stick out here, whereas in other places where we've allowed a garage to be closer to the road, it's an established precedent in the style and design of the neighborhood. And so I'm probably the same as Commissioner Batty, that I would have just incredible difficulty approving this as presented, possibly for additional reasons. I think the distance is way too close, and to have a driveway that short is unnecessary, and I don't see a practical difficulty in altering the plans to accommodate quite a bit. And I'd also like to see that if we approve a variance of a distance shorter than 30 feet, which I can support, but not down to 10, not even close to 10. I'd like to see the accessory structure that's very, very close to the road as well, 100% in compliance, as well as all of these other pieces that they have that are non-compliant on the property. I'm a little unconfident, or I'm not confident that the language in our staff recommendation assures us absolute certainty that the non-compliant structures would be removed. And I understand that, and I talked to Donovan earlier this week about how do you enforce a demolition permit, and I had the answer that there's an escrow. And if the commission decided to move forward with this plan or another plan, I would encourage us that the demolition permit is not only part of the recommendation, but it is enacted and completed prior to any other construction permit, should the commission decide this.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm losing my voice. I think it's a great idea to have a detached garage in this property, and I think it'll help the property values. I think, I would hope that the applicant continue to pursue the idea. I don't like the way it's proposed, though. I would think that attaching it to the building, tying in the footings and tying in the structures would indeed make it quite a bit more expensive. So I don't have a problem with a detached garage. I think, though, it ought to be a side-loaded garage and get the traffic off of, get the parking off of and away from that roadway. I don't mind the variance to the front yard setback. It's lakeshore property. It's not ideal, but I don't mind it. But I don't want to have that parking right close to the road. The other issue is, I agree with you, Eric, that if the city were to approve the garage in any fashion, a condition on my part would be to remove those two structures. The metal shed in the back, lakeside would be all right, but the Quonset hut and the structure up front, I see no reason to have those, and those should be removed.
Thank you. Dennis?
Is there a basement in the house? Does the house have a basement?
No, the house, it used to just be a cabin at one time. It's
So-
about 75, 80 years old.
Just a crawl space, sir.
Okay. So I'm just I'm trying to
Dirt
figure out
crawl space.
all this additional cost for attaching footings. If there's a basement, yeah, if there's no basement, then, I mean, you still have to put frost footings in.
You run into the
You
wood
gotta tie,
walls.
you have to tie into the roof, you gotta pour footings to the house, you gotta attach to the house, there's a lot more money involved there. Just because it doesn't have a basement and there's still footings in the house, and you have to tie into the roof and everything else, it's a lot more money that way.
And I'll just make the comment too, agreeing with Mike that I'm okay with a detached garage. I don't like the way the entrance to the garage is now. Side-loaded would be my preference. Moving, even changing the size of that garage slightly. I know it's 24 by 26, but a couple feet is a couple feet. And, but if you change the entrance to the garage, we might have some flexibility there. But we won't, I personally wouldn't support it the way it is right now.
Commissioners, which, someone wish to make a motion, which could include, up to and including the table if you'd like.
Can we just talk strategy here for a second?
You can do whatever you want, man. I'm easy.
I mean, would one I mean, if we just deny it, then that puts it out.
Yes.
You know, it puts this whole, and I don't want to do that. But if we made a motion to accept this and then amended the motion, would that give us kind of the flexibility that we're looking for here to?
Why would you amend it, not just make it put additional conditions in?
Well, okay, if that's another way to do it, and if that's a cleaner way to do it, that's what I would do.
I think I'd prefer that we either deny it for reasons, or table it and allow the applicant to work with staff on a new application and come back to us, so that they can present something new to us.
I tend to lean with Mr. Black on this.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think if we,
Otherwise,
I think
we're
we can
designing-
probably look in the audience at the applicant and say, are some of the things that we're looking for on this, things that you want to modify in this application and bring back in a month or two? Then I'm okay with tabling it. If I haven't heard them say anything to that effect, if they want the application just this way, I think we deny it. And so I'm kind of in that position. Do you want to hear from?
Sir?
If it has to be, I guess I'll make it a side-loading garage. I mean, if that's gonna keep the city happy and everybody happy, I guess we'll have to take down the big maple tree and I'm gonna have to work around it. It's a lot cheaper going that route than attaching the garage to the house. You know, I mean, it is.
It's a shame that's a 200-year-old.
Mom, I mean, you know, I mean, if that'll make the city happy and everybody happy, I'll that's what'll happen, I'll make it happen.
What we're discussing is if we table this,
Right.
we would ask you to work with Donovan,
Yep.
and then it would come back to us later for a final decision.
Right, I understand.
That way, no decision's been made, you haven't lost your investment if we were to deny it.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table this application, asking the applicant to consider comments made by the Planning Commission and the public, and that the applicant work with staff on a revised plan and bring it back at a later date.
Second.
No discussion.
There's no discussion, I just want a point of clarification on the motion. To what date?
Let's go to the first meeting. in
We
November.
do have a planning commission meeting on November 28th, if that would help.
Or it'd be the
Fine.
first one
If we
in
can get back by
December.
November 28th, that'd be great. Let's table it till November 28th.
Can I ask a question for clarity here?
Yes, sir.
Before staff starts to work with the applicant, we have kind of a split decision here on the board of a detached garage versus an attached garage. So what I want to try to avoid is that if we come back to you with, for example, a detached garage, are we just wasting our time? And, I mean, I think we need just a little more direction on what we're looking to assist the applicant with.
How about we vote on the motion and then we address that? Did I have a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We can take a straw poll on direction, I think. I think that, what, 5 of us here? I don't care personally if it's attached or detached, as long as I have more distance to the road to park some cars.
I agree.
Other commissioners?
Strong preference to attached, but open to detached.
Same here.
Okay, that's all we need.
Good enough, Donovan?
Certainly, and what's the direction given on the other accessory structures?
I believe you're planning to remove them.
Okay.
I want everything else to
Or
go.
just in compliance?
Or in compliance.
Yeah.
Preferably
Yeah.
before we issue permits.
Okay.
Thank you. Before I get to the next one, we have not a guest, but we have additional staff here. So
Thank you.
I see Patrick here.
Yes,
You're in the city administrator.
I am.
Welcome to the planning commission meeting.
Happy to be here.
At the other section at the end, if you wish to say a few comments, give us your thoughts, that'd be wonderful.
Sure.
All right, moving forward, we have a conditional use permit application, amendment application for 6101 Scandia Trail. Again, we'll have a public hearing to consider the application. Donovan?
Yes. I'd like to present the CUP amendment for a replacement of the high school freestanding sign along Highway 97. I'd like to show you briefly the proposed location on the aerial. As you know, the Plan Commission did amend the CUP for the large construction project for the different school campuses within the city, including large expansion of the high school, including a gymnasium wing and larger parking and other site improvements. But however, it did not include anything regarding signage. And so what's before the Plan Commission tonight is a CUP amendment to place a sign approximately just to the west of this walkway. It's on the northern side, on the Highway 97 side of the property. And then this shown here on their application, you can see it's 27 feet 8 inches from the MnDOT right-of-way. Also on this location shows the location of the proposed wall signage. There is approximately 1,300 square feet of wall signage that's proposed. The sign, and this is actually would be an amendment of the sign CUP that dates from 1997. But the sign is proposed here on your screen as a little under 13 feet tall, approximately 65 square feet, and with a message board that's approximately 18 square feet. And so this is going in that location off Scandia, internally illuminated. And then and that's the rear view of the sign. Here's some photo simulations of how it would be located, not to scale, along there with the high school parking lot on your right there and the highway on the left. Then here's photo simulations of the wall signage on the west elevation, then south elevation with the FL logo, and then east elevation. This is on that new gymnasium wing. And it being an electronic sign, it needs to comply with city rules regarding changeable electronic copy signs involving static images and how long an image has to be retained. The staff recommendations do include, some curbs on the timing of the sign. This is from the original 1999, or from the 99 conditional use permit that, requires that the sign be turned off at 10 p.m. Or when no functions are being conducted at the school. Also, puts conditions on the location and dimensions of the freestanding sign and the wall signage. Mr. Larry Martini is here to represent the application from the school district. So the staff recommendation is for approval, and happy to take any questions from the planning commission.
Question, Donovan? Eric?
And Donovan, on page 28, you talk about, or somebody talks about the sign being illuminated with EMC. And I'll be honest, I tried Googling it and I still haven't figured it out. Forgive me, I'm not an architect for those that are laughing at me. Is that?
No, I'm not.
I'm assuming that is some sort of motion? Does that mean like the flag design that they have on that sign moves? Hand?
Well, but per the zoning code, it can't, a graphic can't have that type of motion. And I admit, I simply guessed, and my guess is electronic message center. Larry, can you enlighten us?
I'm not able to.
So maybe that's a condition of the planning commission that they define what EMC is.
I mean, that's what
I guess my bigger question, and maybe Larry can answer this, or staff, it matters neither to me which it comes from. Approving this, does it change the city's policy on how fast images can change on these types of signs? Or would that policy still be in place with this approval?
That policy still is in place. I mean, a condition of approval is that the number 7, the school district must comply with all zoning code or standards for changeable electronic copy signs.
Thank you.
An EMC is an electronic message center that is a sign that's capable of displaying words, symbols, figures, or images that can be electronically changed remotely or automatically.
Better cell phone. I wonder my Harry.
That one's
It's
just.
3 or 4 years old.
So, Mr. Chairman, Donovan, is the only sign that's going to be lit is this internally lit monument sign out by the road, right? None of this, the signage on the
Walls.
walls is going to be lit, is it?
No, it will be lit. And actually, they did submit a photometric plan, which gives illumination levels.
So how are they going to light it? Is it internally lit, or is it face lit, or?
Yeah, it's face lit. And before you is the photometric plan, which shows the lighting here
So,
on
but-
that west side.
So, but where are the lights? Are they ground mounted? I don't see where the lights are.
I mean, I think they're within the channel letters.
Oh, so it is an internally lit sign?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking. That's fine.
Okay.
I just didn't hear that, I'm sorry. But they're all 3 signs then are have some internally lit portion of them.
Correct.
Donovan, we're 27 feet from the MnDOT right away, and then we're 75 feet to the center line of MnDOT, correct? So we're a little over, what I'm asking this question for, so I believe we're right around 100 feet. And the old sign was 150 feet from the center line, so I just want to know where my old and new sign, it looks like it's plenty far back to me, but.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you that measurement. So if I look at, if I start, I believe it's approximately right here. So it's a little bit, subtract 8 from, so it's about 106 from the center line.
Right, and the old sign was 150 from the center line?
It's a condition, it was, yeah, I think that's what the, what that original CUP is, yes.
And then my second, I don't mind the size of the signs on the walls. They look to scale, but it seems like a lot of signage. The reason I bring that, signs will be, as you well know, will be the death of us on the planning commission. But we have Menards with a large sign and some of the other businesses in town. They always want larger and larger signs. This seems more than we would allow a commercial business. Is there a calculation that allows that much? I'm just trying to figure out what our basis was for allowing these larger signs.
Well, certainly, I mean, this being a CUP, it does have a certain, a different lane, but if this was a commercial property, they could do up to 100 square feet of square footage. They're proposing 65. Are we talking a freestanding sign? Is that you're referring to?
No, the wall
Oh, you mean
signs.
the wall. The wall, I haven't done the calculation, but they could do 15% coverage. And it would be, per, basically two signs per face. There's basically 2 public frontages, and that's how we do calculate the square footage. So I really don't think that, the way it's distributed, it anyway equals that 15% of those, the north and western elevations.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's the only limitation on the size of the sign when it's on a building facade is a percentage of the area of that particular facade?
No, it's, it's 200 square feet per sign, actually. So they could do up to 2, so they could do, I think that's correct. And that's, of course, that's in a commercial district, this is in a residential zoning district, so in some ways it is something of apples to oranges. I do believe, given the high speed of traffic and the distance from the roads, that it won't appear to be an excessive size.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Any other questions? Derek?
One more. Donovan, also on page 28, you had, or I don't know if the school district wrote this, it says, because it's not clear on that page to me who wrote it, but it says additionally, there will be no advertising on the message board. Is that your recommendation, or was that the school's request?
That was, the applicant, the sign company, offered that. I didn't include that as a condition, though. I mean, the planning commission could. I didn't feel like that's was that relevant for this type of use.
I personally wouldn't want it on there, but I was just curious where that came from.
you don't want any Coke or Nike ads on there, huh?
I think advertisement could be interpreted differently by different people.
Right.
And advertising for the football game is advertising.
So but.
I'm
that's a
advocating
school
that it not be a
activity.
condition.
The way I read these conditions here, that it says, 5 says there shall be no advertising on the message board, as the board will be used exclusively for high school activity, messages, and community events.
Yeah.
Which I don't have any problem with that.
Any other questions?
It's related, it's related to school school messages.
Would the applicant like to say anything? Good evening, Larry. Please
Yes,
just state
thank you
your
very
name and
much.
address for the record.
I'm Larry Martini. I'm the business manager for the school district at 6100 210th Street North. And we really appreciate your consideration this evening of this amendment. We're very comfortable with all of the restrictions inside of the recommendation. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. This is a public hearing. We ask if you wish to speak to the issue, please come up, state your name and address for the record, and spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts. So officially open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to discuss or give comment on this application? I'll ask a second time. Does anyone wish to state or comment on this application? Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing for discussion and a decision by the Planning Commission. Commissioners?
I make a motion, we approve this application with the 6 conditions listed by staff here.
I think there's 9.
9 conditions?
9 conditions?
9 commissions.
Sorry. Next page.
And there's 9.
It's page 26.
Okay, sorry about that. There we go. According to the 9 conditions.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call a question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8 was the conditional use permit amendment application for 21395 Goodview that was withdrawn at the city's request. So we'll move on to number 9, which is a conditional use permit amendment application for 19850 Fenway Avenue. We will hold a public hearing and consider the application.
Mr. Chairman, I
Dennis,
represent the owner.
if you could step off the dais, please.
What's that?
You step off there to become the applicant. I cede the floor to the applicant.
Mr.
You
Chairman,
have no presentation?
not tonight.
Please state your name and address for the
Dennis-
record.
Dennis Batty, 22770 Imperial Avenue North, Forest Lake. I'm also the architect that represents Leela, Lakes International Language Academy. And we would like to have this application tabled tonight because of a little glitch that happened in regard to the neighborhood meeting, and have it appear on the next Planning Commission agenda.
Is
So
our
it's a
November
request.
28th meeting sufficient?
Yeah, we're all set to go except for the neighborhood meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to table this request to the November 28th, is that what we said? 28th meeting.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Baby, I'm on a roll. Next up will be a variance application for, let's just go with adjacent Avenue lot. We will hold a public hearing and consider it a variance application. Donovan, are you presenting on this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is located, this variance request is located on property, on Third Lake. It was originally platted in 1974, and is currently vacant. And it's currently this lot there, shown something like in the shape of the state of Minnesota. So I guess we like it. The variance request is to place a single-family home 18 feet from the side street setback and then 40 feet from the shoreline. The builder and the owners are here to represent the application. The shown here on your screen is the outlines that I drew to make it a little clearer for the proposed location of the house. The home is proposed to be about 2,400 square feet. The impervious surface maximum for this size lot is 25, I think is 25%. The proposed is 19.9 according to the submitted survey. The access is proposed to be from Jason Avenue and into a attached garage. And here you can see the channel here, and here's the 40-foot setback. There are conforming front, is the way the zoning code defines residential lots, corner lots. The narrow dimension is the front lot line. So there's a conforming front lot line and conforming rear lot line. As you can note that the existing home to the north is 18 feet from the lot line. And, this house is set to, proposed to match that. And there's still a healthy distance between the lot line and the current location of Jason Avenue as well. Because this is an establishment of a new use, the watershed district came back with comments that a vegetated buffer would be of 25 feet would be required along the shoreline. The staff recommendation is to recommend approval with conditions that a building permit be obtained prior to construction, and the required permits from the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District be obtained, and no erosion or drainage issues shall result from the construction of the home. I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Questions, Commissioners? Would the applicant wish to speak to your application?
No, I just.
It's a nice house, it's a slab-on-grade Rambler, we're pulling it out of the...
Please state your name and address.
Mark
for the record.
Olson, Joshua Markham Builders, I'm working on behalf of the clients to build the home here. My address is 7867 Eastwood Road, Moundsville, Minnesota, 55112. It's a nice home, it's a slab-on-grade Rambler, it's 1721, the house size plus the garage must add up to the square feet number that you've got. We're just over 19% impervious. I'm meeting Aaron, we're meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock with Aaron Edison with the Watershed District, so we're to resolve any issues there and fill out our application, our permit with her, or with them. And of course, we won't get a building permit until we get that one resolved, so we're just going through the facets of getting it built. It's gonna improve the neighborhood. It's gonna look really nice there. Like Donovan said, they're off the road to Jason Avenue, there's a ton of room there. There's a ton of room off Jason Court, and it's a big lot. So if you guys got any questions for me.
Questions for the applicant? Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a public hearing. We ask if you would like to address this application, please come up, state your name and address for the record, and spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts on this application. We'll officially open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak to the issue? I'll ask one more time. Does anyone wish to speak to the issue? Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the commissioners for decision. Commissioners? Mike?
Mr. Chairman, this is a lot of record, vacant lot. Somebody's paying taxes on it today. I think it's an excellent choice of use for the property. I commend the applicant and the builder on their design. I think it's well laid out, well thought out for the property. Yes, we've got setback issues, but I think it's a very, very, very nice proposal, and I think it will fit well in with the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it fits in well also. It's kind of a tangle town back there in Jason. And so I don't have any issues at all. You know, we always like to see the 50-foot setback, but as long as we got this buffer going in, I don't have any problem with it.
I'll comment. I'm going to support this as well. I drove back there. I live right around the corner in the adjacent neighborhood. The biggest concern I had was that the distance from Jason to the house was similar to those on that side of the road, and it looks like it is. And so the lot, the way it's situated, it seems like we're gonna end up having to give them a variance one way or another to build this, and I would lean towards the preference they chose.
Mr. Chairman, I also support this application. This is, you know, the house right to the north there sits back 18 feet, so it's, we're not encroaching any further. I'm familiar with this lot. I've looked at this lot with other potential buyers, and quite frankly, didn't give them a lot of encouragement to, most of them wanted to build something bigger than this. And I didn't give them a lot of encouragement. So I think you've come up with a great balance here.
Well, I'd make a motion to approve the variance to locate a single-family home 18 feet from Jason Avenue property line and 40 feet from the lake shoreline to the east on the property as identified in the PID with the 3 staff recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a site plan review application for 1267 Broadway Avenue West.
Yes, I'd like to present the site plan review application for 1267 Broadway Avenue West. This, you may know this, if you're an old timer, as the Amoco station. Currently, a BP franchise is located there, British Petroleum gasoline station with a car wash. What's proposed is, I'll do the aerial just to ground you. What's proposed is a complete redevelopment of the site. So the existing structure and the car wash are proposed to be removed. Here it is, located between Walgreens and Taco Bell, just close to the freeway. And the submitted existing conditions show entrances from 3 different locations, from Broadway through the, basically sharing an entrance with the Taco Bell, somewhere on the Taco Bell property, and then also in the rear. And what's proposed is this is a single structure that maintains these access points, and also it features a drive-through for a proposed Starbucks to be leased there. Evidently, a dentist offices, a medical use is proposed for the other larger space. The middle, as of I last heard, remained unleased. I'd like to remind the Planning Commission that zoning code does not allow you to set a condition of approval that a Chipotle be located in that leased spot. Okay. We can only hope and pray. But the queuing is adequate room for the queuing and service window located on the side for the Starbucks. The property meets the parking setbacks. The building meets the setbacks. The striping does show something of a counterclockwise motion for the rear, behind the back of the property. And the way they've calculated the parking for the drive-through, essentially it's a fast food restaurant, in the parking regulations, and it does meet the minimum requirements for the space for parking. There's currently about 80% impervious surface on the property proposed. Application is going before the watershed district mid-December. for their stormwater approval. The stormwater management is proposed to be, facility is proposed to be located in that front there. There is one monument sign that's proposed on the southeast corner that is compliant with dimensions and location to the zoning code. There's also a non-conforming sign that's located off the site that was part of the original, kind of the BP development, but it's shown as the very tall sign, which, as a non-conforming sign, it can't be expanded in any way that increases nonconformity, but it can be refaced. And so the applicant, which is Launch Properties, represented by Don Regan here, has proposed that they be refaced with the two known tenants. Also shown on your screen is the proposed, building elevations. And any wall signage would be subject to future sign permit application review. It's a total of about 79,000 square feet, single story, 3-tenant structure. It meets the minimum design standards. There's no other applications related to this, related to like a variance or whatnot. The fire chief has reviewed this, and its size and occupancy, the sprinklers would be required, and there's also a hydrant on the off the southwest corner of the lot. They're proposing to also, the sidewalk that goes across the property is part of the county right-of-way, so no changes proposed there. I'll note that the photometric plan meets lighting regulations. Also that the dumpster detail was submitted after the packets went out, but it does show compliance with material and size, and its location is on that kind of that far northeast corner of the site. Thank you. So conditions for staff recommendations for approval relate to a payment of the park's dedication fee, that all necessary permits be obtained, and then removing the number 3, since we have received code compliant details of the dumpster enclosure. The development agreement be executed prior to initiation of construction activities. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Eric?
Hey, Donovan, the sign that is not on the property and currently not compliant, I understand that it wouldn't expand its non-compliance, but does that property owner, I believe it's the Taco Bell property, are they a co-applicant here? Have we had communication with that property? Do we have any proof that this property owns the rights to that sign or anything of that nature?
I don't have that information. Perhaps the applicant can provide that.
Thank you.
So we're gonna have a dental office with a 80-foot tall sign.
Life's sweet, man.
It would be, if approved, to be part of this.
That might be a first.
Donovan, on that back entrance, the north entrance there, that kind of just goes to the other parking lots? It doesn't go out to whatever that road is out there, right? First, that back road that goes kind of behind Culver's and Tires Plus.
No. It goes to an existing paved area. I don't know, the city, we don't have evidence that there's easement agreements around that. That was a question we posed.
That would be my question. Their property line's there, it goes out into some, abyss of some ownership, I assume? Or does
So-
the city own it?
No, the city does not own it. It's my understanding, and this is something that I don't believe the city's opening up itself to any kind of legal liability with, but that if it was push comes to shove, there are unrecorded easement rights for this. I mean, there have been, for decades, vehicles have been using these entrances, and I did see, evidence of an easement across here for the hotel, that hotel to the, Americana Inn to the north. I'm not sure if the applicant has more information about that, but, it's using existing entrances, and it is, I don't believe that that's an issue.
So that is hotel property back there.
Yes, yeah, these, on your screen, you can see that these, are the approximate location of lot lines. We won't say that that's,
Yeah.
the car wash is halfway, quarter off the property or anything.
So who owns the retention pond? Or pond? Is that just a separate piece of property?
That's the Washington County, this whole, area was,
It's a
kind
regional
of regional
pond?
pond.
Oh, it is, okay.
When they went the
All right.
County Road 2 reconstruction, in Broadway Avenue.
So put one of the site plans back up. So this is going to limit, there isn't gonna be that back, or maybe it wasn't there anyway.
No, there's no change proposed as far as access.
To this, okay, I see.
And I mean, it really helps the site move, because then also, it's, anyone who is seeking to go, east on Broadway, the easier way to exit the property is through that rear and then behind Walgreens, and, they hit that signal.
Slide the plan down a little bit. No, the other way. The other way. I want to see the north edge of the property there. This really doesn't show, I think Paul's got a point here. This really doesn't match up with what's there, does it?
Oh, yeah, they have it. In all the years I've been to the BP.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been out that exit.
But this is something different. Doesn't it go off to the east there?
No, this is the same exit that they currently
Okay,
have out
all
into
right,
the,
okay.
from now we understand the hotel's property.
Correct. I believe some understanding that one of the parties paved it in exchange for gaining access, and maybe it was the BP or the Amoco, something like that.
My concern being that Starbucks probably has a fair amount more traffic, they may want to go east, and so as long as everything's cleaned up in the back and they can all cut through each other's parking lot and they have cross easements, I don't really care. I just think we need to make sure that's tidied up. That's my only concern about this project. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the staff. When you looked at this site plan and calculated parking, you calculated parking based on the dental use and applied the parking regulations to that type of facility, and then the Starbucks restaurant. What did you do with the middle piece, the vacant piece? How did you calculate parking on that? And do we have enough parking?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that one is located as a office or, retail or service. And that's essentially the five. The unleased space is completed, it could be a drive-in restaurant or retail is the parking calculation used.
And there's enough parking there for another restaurant. That's my only concern, is if that center vacancy was for a restaurant. Restaurants often demand much more parking, and would we have enough here?
Certainly.
Okay.
Well, if it was a sit-down restaurant, that would be a different matter, but, they calculated the one space for every 2.5 seats based on design capacity, and then that counter area calculation. And, I believe that the site is adequately parked.
So, Mike, it's on page 90 of your packet. There's a parking calculation for 10 and 2.
Oh.
Which is 25, I knew I found it somewhere, 25 stalls. So it looks like Starbucks is 18 stalls, 25 stalls for the middle, and 12 for the dentist. I got heads nodding in the back, so I get a star.
Yeah, there it is.
Other questions of the city? Would the applicant wish to speak? We ask you please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Dan Regan with Launch Properties. We're the developer and applicant on this project. Our office is located at 800 LaSalle Avenue, Suite 1610 in Minneapolis. We're very excited about this project. Believe it or not, we've been working on this thing for about 4 years. And this goes back to the time when Amoco sold off stations like this nationwide to owner-operators. I believe it was in like 1995 or something like that. It's a few decades ago. They placed some deed restrictions on all these properties that limited alternative uses to the point where you can't even sell a bottle of water. You can't do healthcare uses, dental uses, things like that. All you can do is basically operate a BP or Amoco station. So we began working with BP on getting the deed restrictions waived, which we have successfully done now as of about 6 months ago. And in between BP and the operator, which is Fear Enterprises, there's also a fuel supplier that buys the fuel from BP and sells it to the operator. And they had a contract that went out 10 years and stipulated how much they would be paid per gallon of oil sold or per gallon of fuel sold. So we had to negotiate with the what's called the jobber, and he was very, very difficult to negotiate with and come up with terms and a price to buy that contract out that ran through 2022. Which terminated at about the same time the deed restriction terminated. So that literally took us 3 years to work through that process. The tenants that we had lined up at the time we began that process were Starbucks, Aspen Dental, and Noodles, the restaurant that was in the middle. Over that time period, Noodles determined that they lost patience and decided they were going to do something somewhere else in a different city. So we lost them in that time period. But now we're to the point where we've successfully entered into binding agreements with BP, with the fuel supplier, World Fuels, and with the owner-operator to get that stuff in the rearview mirror, which was a lot of work and cost a lot of money. So we were able to focus on now getting our entitlements for this project. Mr. Hart gave a good explanation of what we're doing here. It's a fairly simple multi-tenant retail strip. We feel that it's got adequate access in all directions. Ingress, egress are great. By the way, it's set up today. We've got adequate parking. You mentioned the parking calculations for the inline bay. Those calcs that are in that table are based off of a Noodles prototype restaurant. So that would be fairly typical for another QSR that might end up occupying that. Right now, we don't have any letters of intent signed with tenants, but we're out in the market. We'll have that thing leased up by the time we finish the building for sure, probably by the time we break ground on it. So it's an exciting project, and to just briefly address some of the questions that I heard come up in discussion. Number one, about access. I think that a lot of you are familiar with the site, and the access points have been in use for many, many years. We're not proposing to change the way the site circulates for ingress and egress. We're simply using what's there today. As far as access rights and easements, we deal with those a lot on our projects. We're very familiar with what we need to do to get those. Interestingly here, there's, starting with the north access that's on the northeast corner nearest Walgreens and nearest the hotel property boundaries. The owner of the site actually paved all that lane that's to the north of his property line on the hotel property several years ago in exchange for permanent access. At the time, I'm told, they never formally documented that, what they should have done, obviously, is drop an easement exhibit and an agreement and have it recorded. They never did that. Our attorney, our land use attorney, has given us advice that there's such thing called a prescriptive easement. You'll see it a lot of the times on lakeshore trails and driveways and things like that. Anytime other property owners are benefiting from an access, but it's never formally been documented after a certain number of years, if one wanted to, they could go to the courts and have that easement documented formally. We have reached out to the owner of the hotel property, have not been able to connect with them. The hotel was sold to new owners probably, I don't know, within the last 4 months. So we have not been able to connect with the new owners as of yet. Made every attempt to do so. Moving around counterclockwise to the southwest access point that's shared with Taco Bell. Interestingly there, that again is an access that we're not proposing to change. It's been in use in that condition for many, many, many years. When the Broadway project was undertaken, I believe, let's see here, I might be mistaken. It might not have been when the Broadway project was done, but I think there was a utility work or something like that in the right-of-way that was done back in like 1998. And staff provided us with an easement exhibit that showed an easement on the gas station property, but not on the neighboring property on Taco Bell. My title work that I pulled and reviewed personally and had our land use attorney review doesn't bring up any easements there either. So either there was an easement exhibit that was created but never recorded. I don't know what happened. But again, there's another goofy thing over there, something that probably should have been recorded at the time, but somebody who just, I don't know what they did, threw it in a file and forgot about it. So there's an exhibit that exists out there, but it's never been recorded. But again, as I stated, we're not proposing to change the accesses at all for our project. I hit parking, signage. Again, the tall pylon sign that's to the west of Taco Bell, that's obviously a non-conforming pre-existing use. There's an easement that exists on the Taco Bell property. That I do have a document that provides evidence that that sign is for the benefit of the gas station. Again, we're not proposing to change that in any way other than to change out the panels. I haven't looked at it recently, but it may be wise to apply another coat of paint to it to dress it up a little bit more. But other than that, we're not going to change the shape. We're not going to change the structure. Just change out the wall panel or the sign panels on it. And I guess I'd stand for any other questions that you want to hit me with, and happy to provide any answers that you might want.
Any questions for the applicant? Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the access to the north, I don't think that, I mean, if you had to close that off, you could just close it off. You could add more parking. I don't think that that's, you're dependent upon that really to, for traffic circulation on your site.
Let me respond to that if you wouldn't mind real quick. That access is critical to the site simply because it is the best direct access to get back to the stoplights that are outside of
Eastbound.
Walgreens. That gives us the eastbound access. Otherwise, we've got three-way access.
Oh, so you would go out and come back through the Walgreens property, get to the...
That would be how you would get to that stoplight, yes.
And do you have an easement to go through the Walgreens property?
Our property, the gas station property, doesn't border that Walgreens property at the access point. That's the hotel property.
No, but if you're sending your traffic out through the Walgreens parking lot, you don't have there's no agreement with Walmart or with Walgreens to do that?
To the best of my knowledge, there would be something between the hotel and Walgreens. We have access to the hotel property, then they have access to the Walgreens property.
Wow. Well, I would think Walgreens would probably have an issue, may have an issue with that. I mean, you're sending your traffic through their parking lot.
Everyone in that
Not trying to
development
create problems.
is, yeah.
Pardon me? Yeah, that's...
Yeah. The hotel, the Taco Bell, the BP,
Perkins.
that's all going
Add 'em
through
all
that,
up, man.
that lot.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
You don't actually have to go out through the Walgreens property there.
No, you don't have to.
You
No,
can go
I don't-
back-
I see
You can
that.
go back out to whatever that street is along the back side, on the north side there, and get out that way. That's what I do. I'll wait for the stoplight.
You mean to go out to the north?
Yeah, I go out to the north, and then you take that, then you go east on First Avenue there, and it comes around to a traffic signal or...
So you'd go off the wall, now you go through the Walgreens property into the neighboring property and then to the north?
Right?
Yeah, through the Perkins lot.
We've got it all figured out. We've been there for
And the
3
lot
years.
behind Perkins.
All right.
It should have been cleaned up back when it was Hardee's and the jewelry store, but it wasn't, so this is what we have. And I'm sure that before Taco Bell, when Patrick's was there, I think it was Patrick's, that was a restaurant, kind of bar place right to the west of the BP. And
Well,
it's
it's
always
nice
been
that-
like that back there.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have a way to get the additional traffic due to Starbucks, which generates a fair amount of traffic. They're across
Yeah,
the
they'll
freeway now.
generate more traffic than exists out there today. I think if you looked at the highest percentage of traffic that Starbucks individually will generate, what they like about this location is that it's on the AM side of the street for AM traffic, which is when they sell the most coffee. So most of their traffic will be coming in and going out, heading
west.
back to the interstate. But there will be more traffic, I would assume, than what you've got with BP today.
Other questions for the applicant?
I have one question. I'll be clear, it doesn't matter for my decision, but it's more a curiosity point. This Starbucks coming in, does that mean the one over by Cub is going away?
We don't know that for sure. They don't share that with us. I know that they have lease space on the west side of 35 at Cub. there's no telling what they'll do with that space, and I can't represent what Starbucks will make a decision, at the corporate level. That's for them. We're simply the developer. We'll lease the space to them in this location, and what they do there, I guess, is up to them. So I don't know for sure.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We may have more later.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Not a public hearing, correct, Donna?
Yes, sir. No public hearing required.
Commissioners, what would you like to do? Kevin?
I have one question tonight.
Well,
It's to Donovan.
You have my bated attention.
Well, it's to Donovan. This road out of this north end of this parking lot concerns me. Is this a city-approved road back here of any sort? Is it a conforming road? I mean, we're taking access out of a property onto somebody else's property that we don't know for sure if there's easements in place, crossing into somebody else's property that we're not sure if they have permission to do through property lines, and either going through their parking lot or out another piece of property that's not theirs. That sounds not right to me. Do we know this road that's behind here is a approved, conforming road that meets our city conditions for them to access?
Yeah, it's a private site improvement, so there aren't city standards for say, like the road section or width. I don't believe this was part of a site plan approval through the planning commission. And essentially, easements are private contracts between different, property owners. And so the city can't, mandate that access be provided. They're simply taking what's there, and, I believe if the city attorney was here now, she would, concur that, and, I'm not offering legal advice in saying this, that the applicant is correct, that there is some sort of easement rights based on the long-term usage. I've looked at the old Amico, I think it's in mid-60s, building, and it appears that was, these access points have been there for, could be upwards of 40 years.
So wouldn't it be in the city's best interest, though, as we're looking at this and considering this approval, that we have those easements in place for sure, and we have them as part of the record with this project? Who's to say Walgreens is okay with people driving through their parking lot and coming out to the stoplight, or driving through their parking lot, going through the next property's parking lot and out the backside, or driving back through the hotel property and down through Taco Bell's property and out? I mean, to me, that sounds like a problem. What if one of the homeowners doesn't like it? I mean, is Walgreens got permission to go and put a barricade up there if they wanted to? So nobody could go through there? I mean, it's their property.
They could do that, yes.
And so then that would not help these people with their access, would it?
And that's also, that's not a city problem. That would be something they would negotiate. I think that they would all realize it's in their best interest to maintain that.
So I disagree. You're saying this is not a city problem. To me, this is a city problem, because if one of the homeowners gets mad at the other homeowner, it's gonna be a problem. Or property owners gets mad at the other property owner. So I think we should consider something in place, or I don't know what we need to do, but I think as a commission, I have no problem with the project. I love the project. That bill seems like a mess to me. And I think we can't just live on the fact that, well, it's been there forever and it's gonna be okay. Mike? I know you have a comment.
No, I kind of agree. I think it's a great project. I love the project, and I support it 100%, but I think the city probably ought to work on some cross easements, get these property owners together and do some cross easements on shared access points, because it could be a problem sometime in the future. I don't know if it's worth holding up the project. I mean, I commend them on what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the city decided not to clean it up when they allowed Walgreens to build there, and when they had Hardee's and jewelry, it was discussed bringing in 12th all the way through to First Northwest. And the city declined to do that, so I think they made the decision they were gonna live with what was there. That was years ago, I couldn't tell you what year it was. I wouldn't even venture to guess when it was.
It's not more than 10 years ago. I've read the minutes where that was considered. And, it wasn't, I remember the property owner was not excited, the property owner to the north was not excited about that because he realized it was devaluing property, to the north, not having that access through there. But yeah, that was a very conscious decision to not be, that road not, 12 not continue north of Broadway.
Mr. Chairman, are we final action on this, or does this go to council after our, do we make a recommendation, or is this a final?
We give approval here, correct, Donovan?
Yeah, Planning Commission has final decision authority on site plans.
And if we gave approval tonight, could we add a condition or I don't know, maybe a request that staff run this by the city attorney and ask for an opinion on the access? I mean, if it's all right with the council, if it's all right with the city attorney, it's okay with me. I don't, but I agree, Kevin, that it's a little gray area here. It's an issue that merits further consideration by someone.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dennis.
So let's just lay out what the facts are, what we do know here. In regard to the hotel, clearly that access is only through some kind of an easement, at least through the Taco Bell property. Do we have any record of, is there any record of that?
Yeah, I've seen record of that. I haven't seen the written agreement, but I've seen that, as a, the easement
Okay.
exhibit for that.
Okay, so you haven't seen
They're
it.
belonging to the hotel. Yeah, they're running
You've seen,
base.
I mean, is there any, how old is the hotel?
80s, 90s.
I'm just
Give me
wondering
a second, I
if you
could
look
look and
back
see what I
at the
have.
documents, the permitting process for the hotel, if it's new enough to be able to do that, and find out if there was any, obviously there had to be, for them to be able to build back there, there had to be some kind of an easement granted to do that. You would think that that would be part of that approval process. Obviously, the owner, or the new owner here, is going to pursue contacting the hotel to find out what they know about the, this whole access thing to the east, i.e. this piece of asphalt along the north side of the Amico, or this property here.
Eric?
So here's where I'm at with this parking situation. As I look at the plan, they still have an access and a half on Broadway. The access towards the freeway or on the west corner of the property, that access is partially in Taco Bell and partially on this one. So I think they have sufficient access even if the rear access is closed. So if those adjoining properties just said, we're gonna put a barricade up, I think they could still function in this aspect with the direct access to Broadway. So for me, I mean, if you guys want to get the city attorney to give an opinion, I don't really care. I'll support that we table this and move it on. But for me, it's not necessary. And it becomes their headache and their neighbor's headache if they can't figure out their accesses and somebody puts up a barricade. And I guess in that sense, I'd rather the city not have the liability of having put an opinion on it at all.
I'm fine with it as it is, with the applicants aware of what they have going on, so my only point was making sure people were aware.
If I may, I think that you don't want to mix the easements with the applicant here. I think you want to make a decision on the application and the site plan. And we will go ahead and look at what kind of easements there may or may not be and what kind of future problems that might bring. I mean, we will do that anyways. We'll talk to the attorney and see what the issues are. We already see on the screen that there's the easement between the hotel and the Taco Bell, so that exists. But I don't think you want to mix those two issues. I think you want to just focus on the site plan and whether you're going to approve that, and just let us go and see what we can do about these easements, if there's anything, because it pretty much is probably a property owner versus property owner kind of situation. But we'll look at it anyway.
I concur. Eric?
The plan in broad spectrum, I can support as it is. The one piece that I really struggle with is approving a sign change that's not on the property without having that validation here. And so I'm prepared to support everything that staff has presented and the site plan review. But I would like to explicitly note that that sign piece needs to come with that other property as a separate application. I don't see any evidence in front of me that says that's tied to this property somehow.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir.
Is there a separate sign permit required when you just change out the faceplates on a sign? Do you have to get another permit, or how does that work?
Often we do receive applications, sign permit applications for refacing, but it's not expressly required.
So they could change this without coming to the city at all?
Correct.
Well, you have, number 4 of your recommendations would require a permit, correct?
That's for the wall and new monument sign, not for the existing.
We could put a comma in there and existing.
I'm sorry?
We could put a comma in there and existing if we wanted to, right?
Okay.
We could make that a requirement. Well, I'm just saying, I didn't make a motion, so I'm not saying, but to clarify that. Kevin?
I agree with Eric. It's interesting that we have an existing sign that's not on this property that they're proposing to change the plates, and we don't see any documentation they can even do that. I mean, I don't know if we need to see that as part of this application, but.
I think you'd be fine adding a recommendation that just adds something to that effect for the 8th one, and you're good.
Other than that, they want to change the sign.
Does staff have any suggested language to go with that intent?
To require the evidence of the sign easement? Sorry, I missed that one.
That would be one pathway, yes. Do you have suggested language we could add as a condition or altering one of the existing conditions?
Well, I mean, to me, it'd be a simple thing. We do require ownership, proof of ownership for sites. In this case, we did require the owner to sign the application. And so I don't think that would be, I think that'd be a simple, condition to meet, and if that meets the Plan Commission's concerns. Sure. I mean, but also, this is one of those situations where we do have these, the site plan, the signs often are part of a site plan. Sometimes they're not. So if they're part of the submittal, we include those. But for instance, recently, the Cornerstone Plaza property, they didn't come in with a freestanding sign. So then later, just the past week, they came through and we did that as a separate process. So this was, I think, to show the whole project, the applicant here did present that they were going to reface that sign, but they didn't need to include that. I mean, it's not part of the site plan change. It's simply part of a non-conforming site element that they could reface without a sign permit.
I think you're actually correct. I think this is really outside the purview of the site plan that's been presented, that the sign itself is off-site. It's a whole different issue on its own, that if all they need is a permit to re-sign it, that's what they need, or even if they don't. So I think that it's just like Donovan said, is that they just included it to try to be comprehensive, but I don't think that with this site plan, you really have much option to talk about the large sign. That would be my opinion, without talking to the attorney, because it is off-site. It's really a different property owner. There's a whole bunch of different things going on there, so I don't think it's applicable.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave the impression that should we approve this, that we're approving them to do something to a neighboring property that they may or may not have the rights to do.
I think that's, again, a property owner's issue more than it's our issue, that if they decide to change a sign, they're not going to go change a sign without the property owner telling them that it's okay to do, so.
So making that clear just in conversation may be sufficient?
I think so.
Well, they already indicate they've got a clear easement for it. I mean, the applicant already stated that they have an easement for it, so I don't have an issue with that.
With staff comments, I'll make a motion to approve as recommended.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Good luck on your project. Welcome to Forest Lake.
Thank you very much.
We have moved to our other section, and I would like to start, if, Patrick, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say a few words.
I won't say many, I just happy to be here and hope you and I and the board can work together and get through some of all this stuff when we need to get stuff. That's all. I'm real happy to be here, though.
Is there anything you're looking from us?
Not yet. I'm still a little new. So don't worry if I need something. I guarantee I'll let you
How
know.
long have you been on board?
That's about 4 weeks now.
And where are we from, or where?
I originally, my last position is the village administrator in Salem Lakes, Wisconsin, which is on the Illinois-Wisconsin border.
Oh, yeah,
So
welcome.
similar community of 15,000, 34 square miles and 10 lakes. So,
But it was in Wisconsin, so coming to Minnesota, it's a step up.
and I'm not a Packers fan or a Vikings fan. So just to let you know.
Oh, we got a Bears fan here.
Chicago Bears.
Chicago? Well, all of a sudden now, he's just gone up in my eye, just to let you know.
At least I have one friend, I guess. So.
Would our liaison, soon-to-be mayor, have any comments for us this evening?
I don't have anything for you.
Congratulations on your election.
I have nothing else. Donovan?
As repeated earlier, we are planning to have a planning commission meeting on November 28th. We didn't plan it right before Thanksgiving, so we'll give you a little time to digest your food. And then, that's really it.
Other commissioners? Hearing nothing, chair's looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all. Have a very happy Thanksgiving and a safe Thanksgiving.